Karim was a kind merchant who lived in a peaceful village with his loving wife, Amina. Their house had a beautiful garden with flowers, tall trees, and birds singing sweet songs. Karim also had a pet parrot named Mithu, who could talk like humans. He kept the bird in a golden cage and loved listening to its words. One day, Karim had to travel far away to sell goods. Before leaving, he said to Mithu, "Watch over my home and tell me everything when I return." The parrot flapped its wings and nodded. Karim kissed Amina goodbye and left on his journey. Days passed, and Amina felt lonely in the big house. To pass the time, she invited her friends for tea. They laughed, shared stories, and walked in the garden, plucking flowers and enjoying the fresh air. Mithu sat in its cage, watching everything carefully. When Karim returned home after many weeks, he was tired but excited to see Amina. But before meeting her, he went straight to Mithu and asked, "Tell me, what happened while I was away?" The parrot flapped its wings and said, "Master, Amina laughed and talked with strangers in the garden." Karim's face darkened, his heart filled with doubt. "Is this true, Amina?" he asked in a cold voice. Amina looked at him with shock. "I only talked to my friends. Why don't you trust me?" she cried. But Karim turned away. "Mithu never lies," he muttered. Amina felt her heart break. She stayed in her room, crying every night. The house that was once full of love now felt cold and empty. One day, an old woman visited Amina and saw her sadness. She asked, "Why are you crying, my child?" Amina told her everything. The old woman smiled and said, "Do not worry, I will teach Mithu a lesson." That night, when Karim was not home, the old woman poured water over Mithu's cage, making the parrot wet and cold. Then, she took a thick cloth and covered its eyes. She banged wooden sticks together, creating loud, frightening noises. Mithu flapped its wings in fear, unable to understand what was happening. The next morning, when Karim asked Mithu, "What happened last night?" the frightened parrot quickly said, "Master, there was a terrible storm. The wind was strong, the trees shook, and the house almost fell." Karim frowned and looked outside. The sun was shining, the ground was dry, and the trees stood tall. There had been no storm at all. He suddenly realized his mistake. If the parrot could lie about a storm, it could have lied about Amina too. With tears in his eyes, he ran to Amina and held her hands. "Forgive me, Amina. I was foolish to trust a bird over you," he said. Amina wiped her tears and smiled. "I forgive you, Karim." Karim turned to Mithu. "You cannot stay in this golden cage anymore," he said. He opened the door of the cage and let the parrot fly free. Mithu flapped its wings and disappeared into the sky, never to return. From that day on, Karim and Amina lived happily, never believing in gossip again.